large accredited investors, hedge funds, a lot of overseas money, right? But through what's known as a Reg A offering, I can sell to unaccredited investors. And that's what I'm going to do. Now, the cap on a Reg A is 75 million bucks. So I can raise $75 million from regular troops, retired people, and then put 750 million back into the community. Now, that's money that some of these law firms and hedge funds were going to keep for themselves. And you know what they would do with it? Buy more homes, buy jets. That's what they would do with it. All the while saying that they're advocating on behalf of veterans, laughing all the way to the bank, thinking they gave us something great, expanded VA benefits. Gentlemen, we are being done wrong, and I refuse to let that happen because I know too much and I can fix it. So I will.
So let's talk as we go as kind of a forward of what we do from here, right? Because Ron's getting that to go through. I guess the distinction that having the conversation with these three gentlemen over the time, and I want you all to walk away with, that the PACT Act is getting the help at the VA, right? Opening up those doors to get the help. And Camp Lejeune is this weird thing on the side that's not quite the same, right? But it's not what we're saying, like it's all messed up in here. It's like the PACT Act is an amazing piece of legislation part, and it's this Camp Lejeune water, the way it's set, it makes you look a little bit askance at it and needs some work, and that Ron's talking here. But we'll go back to that PACT Act and what we need to do from here, right? It's one thing to pass legislation, but what happens from here when it comes to the VA piece? I guess I could ask it this way, Will, if someone maybe was previously denied or something going on here, what should they be doing if they're like, wow, maybe I'm one of those 2 or 3 million?
Yeah, so you can go back in and re-engage this. Go visit your VSO, get in there into the VA system. Secretary McDonough has done a fantastic job of getting the VA spun up just as fast as, they were like waiting, like the instant this thing went and President Biden signed that thing, man, the VA was pushing like crazy. So, Secretary McDonough has just done a wonderful job on that. If you are somebody that fits that bill, re-engage the system. They are aware of how to handle you. That said, there are a couple of other things you can do to start with that is not going to be this bill has landed and now we have a miraculous solution. The fact of the matter is people are walking around with time bombs inside their bodies, and no legislation is necessarily going to help that. And you've got to get engaged in your own health care. Number one, start by going to publichealth.va.gov/exposures/burn pits. And from there, you can get smart on this topic, like really in-depth, high-level stuff. Number two, you can join the registry, both the VA's registry and a burnpits360.org. Those are long-term plays, but it does help facilitate the research, which does come back into this stuff and plays into that. Number three, you need to take control of your health. And I'm telling you from experience, I fought this stuff for years and years with very little movement. And even to this day, I'm not real fond of my primary care provider in my VA. I've had to go out and figure out how to take care of my own health. And that starts in this process, right? Number one, go get a toxicology test. You can Google Great Plains Laboratories, I believe it's .com, or just Google them. That's where I started and went through. And, they can do a heavy metal toxicity test through your hair. They can take a non-heavy metal industrial chemical stuff test through your urine. That's going to come back and tell you what is in you and what amount that it is in you, and what are those chelators and binders, and how do you start detoxing this stuff out of your body. Now, I went for 14 years with the VA basically telling me that I had a moral compass injury because I had seen or done something so contrary to my sense of right and wrong in Iraq that it shattered my psyche, and I'm making up illnesses. Here, take some zombie dope and go buy crazy stuff on QVC at 2 o'clock in the morning, because that's what you do when you're on that stuff. Whereas once you do this test, now you know how to get it out of you. Well, I still can't get the VA to take that. So, there's implementation stuff that needs to happen next, and we have to really write that down. It's not a perfect smooth system, but that's where you start, get that information in your hands so you can start getting it out of you. Infrared saunas, different supplements. These things will start that detoxification process. Brunstyle Foundation, we're giving away one in-home hyperbaric oxygen chamber a month, every month this year, to veterans that have been denied access to healthcare on this issue of military toxic exposures. We know all these three things kind of plug together on how you can take control. But that's what I'd recommend. First and foremost, take care of your health first. Let the VA system portion of it, definitely engage that. Don't let that fall by the wayside. But that could be a lengthy engagement. Like I said, even my doctors are even aware of the role that I've played in this over the years, and I still can't get them to take my tox reports because they're more concerned that I'm trying to use it as a way to grift the government on getting benefits. So that's starting to lessen. I think we're going to continue to make progress there, but it's in your hands.
And Bob, what do you say on the legislative side of like the election yesterday to go through? But what are the call them the hot VA topics or veterans centric topics that you see maybe gaining steam, or the biggest ones that you expect in the next few years?
Well, number one is going to be PACT Act implementation. And Secretary McDonough is all hot and bothered to get this run, but the problem is that he runs the second largest department in the United States government, but he has less political appointees within his whole department than one undersecretary in the Department of Defense has under his or her little bit of it. And it's a real problem, because as a former political appointee in a department, the political appointees are the ones that have the authority to be able to give top cover to the bureaucrats to get stuff done and get things through. And so the secretary has to rely upon a far greater number of the same bureaucrats that have been denying these claims for years, for decades. And so we're going to really have to monitor that implementation closely, because there are plenty of people that still don't like this. And so when an individual veteran is having a problem, they need to tell the veteran organizations they work with immediately and tell them to call their DC folks to get that working as well. And I believe that both Will and I will have our emails provided as well in this. And so reach out to us too. But we need to monitor that implementation. They're talking about really rolling this out in January with a lot of the tests being done. There's one thing that I need to talk to the rest of the veterans community about, and the rest of the experts. Yesterday, the secretary said that they're going to prioritize cancer treatment for presumptions, which sounds reasonable. Sort of triage aspect, though, is like there may be someone that has COPD that's going to die right away that doesn't have cancer, and maybe they need to be a higher priority. The blanket cancer is just a little concerning, that it doesn't take into account the actual medical opinion of the doctor that's treating the veteran. So we'll have to look at that. Along the lines of what Will was talking about with be your own coordinator, be your own care coordinator, is access to healthcare. The fact of the matter is that the VA, I use the VA for my healthcare. Once I'm in front of a healthcare provider, it's pretty good. Getting there, man, that is a bureaucratic maze, and the healthcare administrators are more often than not a block to my access than an assistance. And so there's something called the community care program that says if a veteran can't get in front of a VA healthcare provider in a certain amount of time, they get to go in front of they get sent out into the community. And I use that too. And the VA is trying to roll that back. And so access to that healthcare is going to be crucial, especially on the PACT Act implementation, because there is so much more expertise just in terms of numbers in the private sector healthcare community than, in terms of percentages, yes, there are probably more VA doctors that have knowledge about a higher percentage of VA doctors that have knowledge about toxic exposure than in the general population. But there's still more doctors in the general population that have knowledge about this stuff. So we need to continue to have access to that community care. And then lastly, suicide prevention is going to be a big issue. There's going to be a lot of implementation of a previous suicide prevention bill that was a big deal called the Prevents Act. that was a task force. I forgot the name of it, but there's going to be about $50 million of grants that are going to be coming out. We got to make sure those are done correctly. We're really concerned about some of the unintended consequences of some of the things like the red flag courts and the fiduciary rule that significantly scare a lot of veterans. 46% of veterans own firearms, and scare a lot of veterans to believe that they can't go get VA mental health care because they're worried that they're going to be put into one of these programs and they're going to lose their rights to possess and purchase their firearms. And then on the suicide prevention, there seems to be a real hesitancy on the part of VA to address the issues of combat exposure, moral injury, and suicide risk. And back in 2016, when they were doing their annual study, they showed that the combat veteran suicide risk was about 4 times the overall veteran suicide risk, which was already about twice as high as the non-veteran suicide risk. So, but that seems to have fallen away, and we're really concerned about that. We think that that's a significant element, especially the element of moral injury.
All right, and then Ron, when it comes on Camp Lejeune, the clock has already started this short window. What does that look like in 2023 from addressing what's there and trying to change that?
So again, let me first commend both Bob and Will. With your plans were all very, very admirable, but they're going to cost money, right? Instead of the community kind of scraping together pennies, my intention is to participate in this Camp Lejeune litigation. Again, complicated plan, I'll reveal it later, but to take as much money as I can that's going to be distributed and put it back into the community. So I have what's known as a Reg D offering. It's on Localvest. People can look at it. And Will, you said something very, very important that I got from this, the element of shame, right? My project, there is no more profitable or altruistic project on the planet. And I will challenge anybody on a point-by-point basis. So what the hell is anybody sitting on the sidelines for? Right? I see REIT deals, and just because somebody doesn't understand it, all you need to know is that I understand it. And so I'm raising money in a Reg D, and I bought the website, watchmepickafight.com, because veterans, you don't want to hear me talk about complicated stuff. You want to watch me do it. And that's what I intend to do. So there's a big conference on December 8th in New York on Camp Lejeune. I'm going to do a webinar with Localvest after that. And at that point, I'll give us, the full plan on what I'm going to do and how we can do it. But the bottom line, gentlemen, is Bob, Will, I'm coming to the fight and I bring substantial resources. Okay. And it's my intention on this call to work with both of your organizations and really any organization that wants to work with me to put me into the fight, to get that amount of money to redeploy back into the veteran community. That's what I'm looking to do. So anybody that wants to work with me, I'll work with you.
And to build on what Ron is saying, so you all probably get those emails from your veteran organizations saying, please sign this petition to your senator and representative about this or that bill or this or that regulation. That costs that veteran organization somewhere between 50 cents and $1 per signature. Just the advertising they have to do, the infrastructure of the web systems that they have to build, that costs them about 50 cents to $1 per letter, per signature, per person. And that has an impact, but it don't come cheap. So
look at the economic engine, right? There are billions of dollars that are going to go to law firms and hedge funds. We can use that money for us. And it's not conjecture, it's law. It's right there for the taking, And these guys are slow and fat and comfortable. And I am hungry, gentlemen. Put me to work. It's ours to take as a community. I'm telling you right now, it's ours to take.
So we go through it. as you can see, I knew we were going to have an exciting event to come in here. I got to tell you, when I started looking into this in, I don't know, when we started talking, Will, in there, and had seen what was going on, I was very confused about what had happened, right? And I see the comments, I've been seeing the chat, people are like, oh, that's how this works. That's why we've had things that have been a problem in the past that came to a head this summer with the PACT Act. We're seeing things about Camp Lejeune. We have still things that we need to fix, but as a community, here this Veterans Week, there's a lot of things that have been done. We have a long ways to go. And I hope that's what you all walk away with, a better understanding today about what happened this year is a big year. Hopefully next year is an even bigger year to continue to move forward and move things from being in the dark about what has occurred with veterans for so many years, bring those things forward and get them fixed, in a respectable way. You know, that people don't have to feel bad about what they went through, that money is there because these are things that happened while they're protecting the country. And so we're out there to continue to do that. So I hope all of you here today have learned a lot more about what happened. There's a lot more to this. There's things happening in the chat. I know what we're going to do is, from Ron and Bob and Will, we're going to send a recording out of this here the next day or two. We'll include lots of links for ways to get help. I encourage you all to go and read more about this. If you think you were affected, if you think one of your family members were affected, in many cases, there's things that you can do to help those who are still here or help those who were affected, may not be with us anymore. So I encourage you all to do that. Continue to learn more. I mean, these are our brothers and sisters who are out serving. So thank you, all of you, all three of you, and those of you who've been participating here. This has been extremely enlightening for me. And I just encourage you all to continue to figure out what's going on in this space and advocate on your own behalf. All right, so thank you all. I'm going to close the webinar from here. I hope you all have a great rest of your Veterans Day week, and happy early birthday to the Marines, even though on the Navy side. So that's right. Have a good day tomorrow. All right, thank you all, and we'll talk to you all again soon.
Thank you.
Here,
Thanks.
Recording.